Running a business is hard. I think it's often not talked about enough that the impact of project management software is getting time back to go to your kid's soccer game or getting a little bit of time back on the weekend to do something that you love.
If you're not using something like this and something happens to that main point of contact, man,
It's scary.
it can take weeks to kind of get your mind around where things are at.
I can be rest assured that I have everything documented.
It's all right there in the palm of our hand.
Now I can sleep a little bit easier at night and I can go get an hour back in my week, 2 hours back in my week for things that I like to do.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Your Project Shepherd podcast. I'm your host, Curtis Lawson, as always, and joining me today is my friend Mitchell Kasselman, and Mitchell is the founder and CEO of Ressio Software. Ressio is a software that we at Crafted, my construction company, recently switched to. Prior to that, we were with another well-known software company and decided to make the transition because I felt like Mitchell and his team had a great product with that did some things in some ways that we prefer to do them versus kind of what we were locked into with our previous software. And so before Ressio launched, I was actually working with them doing kind of a consulting role and helping them talk through how it was going to function and just kind of being a sounding board for them as they develop the software. So we are really excited to kind of see where the future takes Ressio and how it's going to continue to evolve and help our company and our operations. So, Mitchell, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Curtis. Excited to be here.
So tell us real quick about what your background is and kind of, I assume that you were already in a software related space before Ressio, but kind of tell us about like where you came from and how you got to this point to be in the construction space.
Yeah. So, I mean, going back to my younger days, I was always an entrepreneurial guy, always had interest in starting my own business. And I actually worked with two of my friends as an Amazon third party seller when we were much younger. We were basically taking anything you could store in a warehouse for 6 months that would retain its value. And we were selling that good on Amazon. It's a ton of fun. But that was my first exposure to building your own business. And I knew it was something that I wanted to do on my own one day. And then I married that love for building my own company with my taste of construction. And I first got exposed to this when I was at Service Channel in a facility management software company. So I spent a lot of time with the trades, mostly plumbers, electricians, and I was helping them get jobs at retailers like CVS, Trader Joe's, Walgreens, Amazon. And what I kind of learned when I started working with these trades was two things. Number one, these businesses are a bit antiquated in terms of the technology that they're using, right? I would see stacks of paper in offices. I would struggle to get them to check in on job sites. And at the same time, when we applied technology, in this case, Service Channel, to get them new jobs, the impact on a lot of small businesses was really significant. It was 20%, 40%, 60% revenue growth, and in some cases more. And so, with this mindset and understanding small business, construction, and contractors in general, as Service Channel ultimately got acquired, I was thinking about, okay, what do I want to do next? And I teamed up with my co-founder, Ryan. Ryan had recently undergone a nasty renovation. Everything went wrong. It was delayed, it was over budget. He had terrible communication with his builder, and they were using a legacy project management software. So, with my background in contractors and building businesses, and Ryan's understanding of the pain of the homeowner experience, we started talking to more and more folks, particularly general contractors on the residential side, small, medium sized outfits. And we started to hear more and more that folks were stuck between maybe a rock, what I would call legacy software, and a hard place, not using any software at all. And we felt like there was an opportunity for us to build a user friendly project management suite, which we've done here at Ressio.
Awesome. So what opportunities did you see in the existing project management software space that made you say, I think this could be a good opportunity? Like what gaps were there that you felt like Ressio could fill?
Yeah. So when we looked at the market and we saw legacy software, we saw companies that were 20 plus years old. There were bespoke features that maybe didn't talk to each other. So For example, I'd be entering data on one screen and then have to enter that same data on another screen, which would lead to inefficiencies that would be the inverse of what you think software should do. We also talked to many folks who felt like they were using 10%, 20%, 30% of that solution, and they were unable to get over a certain hump to drive any value to their business. And if we looked at those tech stacks that they were operating upon, they were outdated. So there was going to be limited change, if any, given the amount of technical debt that they had built up in their businesses. And in turn, there were still so many businesses we talked to that were growing at a rapid rate. We started Ressio in 2022, so the market was good. And they didn't know maybe how much money they were going to make, or they were struggling to manage their team effectively. And they were doing things with manual processes, Excel, Google Drive, sometimes even the old yellow pad. And we saw an opportunity for them to build their businesses, to grow, to make a lot more money when we thought about a simple, user-friendly project management software on the front end, but something that's also robust and powerful enough to run a large construction job from start to finish.
Yeah, so I do want to get into more specifics on Ressio here in a minute, but I kind of wanted to first talk about, what implementing a project management solution, software, just in general, what benefits there are for contractors and how that's changed the face of residential construction over the last decade. When I first started as a remodeler, small builder 20 years ago, there was really not much available, if anything, for companies my size. And so I was one of those guys, you mentioned the yellow clipboard and Excel spreadsheets. There wasn't even Google Drive back then either. It was like you had a floppy drive with your Excel files on it. So I was operating off of Excel sheets and a yellow notepad. And I did that for a long time. And I think a lot of builders probably started that way. And from what I've seen, there are still a lot of guys who operate that way. So I just wanted to talk about how a good project management software solution helps custom builders and remodelers take things to the next level. So what do you think the big benefits are for a company to take the leap to integrating a software solution?
The businesses I talk to are looking to make money, right? So think increase their profits. They're also looking to grow their business, right? They're looking to take it from 2 million in revenue to 10 million in revenue, or 10 million in revenue to 30 million in revenue. And then there's this intangible aspect of stress. I run a business, Kurt, you run a business, Curtis. Running a business is hard. And I think it's often not talked about enough that the impact of project management software is getting time back to go to your kid's soccer game, or getting a little bit of time back on the weekend to do something that you love. And that's when I think about impact, those three buckets are kind of the umbrella. And then underneath, we can start to see why project management software is going to drive value. So think under make money, right? I'm trying to become more efficient. So what project management software does is it centralizes collaboration for the team by putting everything in one place. So now I have a single source of truth. Now I no longer have to ping my project manager, my superintendent, my project coordinator for information. I can see it all right there in real time. I can run a schedule. I can keep my trades organized to make sure they show up on the job site in time. So I can increase my cycle time, or decrease my cycle time, excuse me. So where now I'm running more throughput and more projects on a month-to-month or year-to-year basis. I can also track my budget in real time. So I can identify where I might have cost overruns, and I can reduce the risk of any profit being lost throughout the job. I can also even connect my workflow with my accounting software. So a lot of folks use QuickBooks Online, right? I can now connect QuickBooks Online in Ressio so that these work seamlessly together versus entering data in multiple places. All of these things drive great efficiency and allow me to make more money. Now, the second bucket of, hey, how do I grow my business? Well, I want to deliver an outstanding customer experience. I want, if you're my homeowner, Curtis, I want you to go recommend me to other folks and drive referrals. So building out proposals in a project management software, doing everything where a customer can see on their side what's happening with the job site through daily logs, make selections, they can approve change orders, get visibility into their budget and schedule should you choose to make it available to them. Elevates the customer experience, which ultimately elevates your brand as a business and allows you to continue growing. And then finally, I think about that stress, right? The amount of times where quick story, when I was building Ressio, I joined a project as a GC for a little bit of time. and I got 10 emails on Saturday at 11:30 p.m. And I know how it feels to be in the general contractor's shoes, getting those emails and feeling like, oh my God, do I have to respond to this right away? But like doing things like centralizing your communication into your project management software so that your homeowners communicate directly there starts to give you your life back and reduce your stress. Fewer customer questions because they have information at their fingertips, right? Now I can sleep a little bit easier at night. I can be rest assured that I have everything documented and I can go get an hour back in my week, 2 hours back in my week for things that I'd like to do.
Absolutely. Those are all great points. One of the big things that I talk to my customers about, because inevitably when we're having an initial conversation with a potential client, a prospect, they're asking us about how we manage our projects and what tools we use. And I always bring up the software. And I say, we ask that once we get started on this project, that we run all of our communication through the software. I know that maybe to this point or at a certain point, you're used to operating with, send your project manager, your builder, a text message or a phone call or an email or whatever. And I always say, we would prefer that everything lives in the software, because, like a lot of industries, employees come and go. Things happen to people. They, either quit, get fired, hit by a bus, have an illness, whatever might happen there. But if we funnel everything through our software, nothing goes away, when that change has to occur. So all that information, all those conversations that have been had over the course of a 3, 6, 9, 12, 24-month long project, everything is right there, right? And so we can just search it. Whereas if you're not using something like this and something happens to that main point of contact, man, it can take
Gary.
it can take weeks to kind of get your mind around where things are at and who said what and what decisions are still pending and things like that. So that's one of the big things that I talk to people about, being a big benefit to using a software. And also file management, document management. A lot of times there's different versions of documents that live in various places, and what was our final decision on that appliance and what's the specifications on that appliance. Well, if you're fully implementing the software, then all that stuff can live there, and my guys in the field can pull up their iPad and see, as long as someone in the office is actually updating it, right? But
Yeah.
here's the most recent set of plans. Here's the most recent spec sheet for the stove or whatever. It's all right there in the palm of our hand. So just kind of the management of information has been one of the biggest benefits to me and to us as a company, I think, over the last 10 plus years that we've had a software solution, is just kind of compiling all that data in one place instead of, that's in Google Drive, that's in OneDrive, that's in my notepad, that's in an email. It's all right there, right?
Totally. And hopefully that makes you sleep a little bit easier at night, right?
Absolutely. Um, so, obviously, you mentioned there were some things that were kind of lacking in other products, as far as like double entry and, just some features that were lacking maybe in some legacy software. Other than fixing some of those types of things, what other kind of features does Ressio bring to the table, that set you guys apart?
Yeah. So the way I like to think about it is the project management suite has a lot of different components to it, right? You just went through a bunch. I just went through a bunch. I like to talk about principles and how some of our features relate to those principles. So when we built Ressio, we built it on a foundation of three things. One, we are going to be the most user-friendly platform out there, right? It's 2024. Your software should feel like it's 2024. It should look like it's 2024. It should be something like easy, like you're using your iPhone. Number two, right? We got to make sure that you can run a job from start to finish with a connected data flow. So those duplicative data entry points that we mentioned, and you just mentioned, hey, I could have a job that's 24 months. I got to be able to run that process from start to finish without having to recreate it 6, 7 times, which is often what folks run into on legacy systems. And then finally, we want to bring a rapid pace of innovation, right? We want to be not only the fastest in terms of iterating and improving our product, but we want to bring things that folks have not seen in this space before. it feels like, as we've looked at in the past to project management softwares, they've just been kind of reincarnations of the same set of features over and over again. And in this day and age, builders deserve that next generation, that next wave of new things that are coming. So if I look at these principles, I'll give you an example. So on the user friendly side, right? You think about how we built our estimating tool. We want it to be super easy for the contractor to input data and adjust, make tweaks to their estimate. So it feels and it looks a lot like Excel, but it also has the power in number two of a connected data flow to where that information, the estimate is now going to flow to my budget. It can, that budget can connect to QuickBooks. I can take the descriptions of each cost item and I can put it into a living, breathing scope of work on my specifications page that I can share out to my trades, my team in the field. So I kind of pair, hey, it's really easy to use with, okay, now it's robust and the data is going to flow throughout the job to the right people and the right places to get a really efficient experience. And on the innovation front, number three, one of the things we've done is we've started to bring AI into our platform. So we often heard time and time again, feature example here, where folks were writing up, even with project management software, job summaries every week, sending them out to their clients. They were doing it in Microsoft Word or in email. Some cases might be just a text message or something along those lines. It would maybe take them anywhere between 15 minutes to an hour. They'd do a pretty mediocre job. They'd send it off, maybe do it on a Sunday, right? And what we did at Ressio was we realized, okay, you have all of your project data, like you mentioned, Curtis, in Ressio, in your project management software. So why can't we take that data, feed it into AI, and then automatically spit out a summary for you of everything that's occurred over the course of the week, as well as everything that's upcoming the following week. So now, in a matter of seconds, I can spit out an update, send it off to my client at the end of each week, get time back per project, and deliver a higher quality output.
Yeah, we've used that feature, and it's really cool. Just being able to click that button and generate a report that you can then go in and edit a little bit and customize, but kind of the bulk of the work's done for you. That's a really cool feature. I think a lot of companies. I think AI is kind of the buzzword right now. It's kind of the hot thing, and so I think people are like, oh yeah, we use AI, right? But it's hard to point to an example of, hey, here's how AI is actually benefiting me in how I use the software, and I think that's a great example.
Totally. And I think when I talk to folks about AI, we talk about it as vertical AI or something specific to the personas and roles in your industry. So that I talk to a lot of other founders all the time in software, and there's a lot of people building AI for AI's sake. We think about it as anything that we use AI for needs to have a very tangible business value output for those personas and in those workflows for your day-to-day operation. So,
Mm.
right, this one's very clear. Hey, I get an hour back per project. Anything else we do is going to be mapped to a specific quantifiable outcome.
Mm. And I think probably there's a lot of builders who don't even do that weekly update. And so maybe this is a value add because this is something that they're not doing for their client before, because they're like, man, I don't want to do on Friday at the end of the week, on the weekend, I don't want to have to do one more thing. Right. And so you've made it easy for people to give their customers that one additional piece of information easily. Right.
Exactly, exactly. Now I can take that, deliver the quality customer experience that I'm looking to do.
Yeah. So one thing you touched on, and this is one of my favorite things, and back when we were developing or in development, and we were talking about how this was going to work, one of the first things that I brought up was, I'm old school. I started doing estimates in Excel. That's kind of where I came from. I think a lot of builders are the same way. Maybe a lot of us have a template set up. And so I said it'll be awesome if we could input this information into the software just like I'm doing an Excel sheet. Now, it's not like identical, right? It's not the same keystrokes or whatever, but if you have a feel for how that process works, quantity, so 15 square feet at $3 a square foot, whatever, it'll spit out that information, or it'll total that up. And, applying, if you want to get into the minutia of applying a specific or a different markup or margin to each category, you can do that instead of applying one blanket markup to your estimate. I mean, there's a lot of power there in how you input the data and how it displays. It feels a lot like Excel. And so if you're somebody who's coming from that world like me, it's a lot easier to pick up than with some of the other uh, uh, software that's out there where it's not intuitive.
Definitely. I'm glad to hear, you have that experience because ultimately it was shaped a lot by your input.
One of the things that I like, and it wasn't just during the development stage, but since then, since you've launched, one of the things I like is that you guys are very responsive. And part of this may just be because you're growing and you're new, and you want to put your best foot forward. But I like to think that that you really care about listening to your customers. And so I love that when me or somebody on the team sees an opportunity for improvement, or maybe it's like a little bug or something like that. Like the other day, I caught a misspelling and sent it to Chad to update. Just like little minor things. But when I see something, or when any user sees something, we can just ping you guys, and you're very proactive about fixing it. Or if it's a new feature that we suggest, you'll say, hey, this is something that we're talking about already, or no, that's a great idea. I'll put it in front of the team. And so I don't feel like my requests are like going out into the void like they have in the past with some other companies.
Hey, it's in our DNA. I mean, if I kind of think about our journey when we started, I knew, hey, I know contractors. Ryan, my co-founder, knows the homeowner experience. We want as many construction opinions as we can to shape this product. So we sought a diverse set of backgrounds, but we also started to hone in on folks, kind of like yourself, who were really advising us in a good direction on where this product could go and what the impact on the impact that we could actually achieve. And I think about the way we set ourselves up for the long term too is both from a tech stack standpoint, we structured things very early on and still do today to where we're constantly evolving. And we made it so it was very easy to iterate upon the product, right? Continue to add new features, new things based on feedback from someone like yourself, because we knew, hey, 2 years in, we'd still want to move fast, just like we did when we were starting. And then as the team starts to grow, you mentioned Chad, our director of customer success, who's fantastic. Put it into the culture, into the DNA of the people you bring on. And I think of Chad, I think of Andy Roy, who's joined our customer success team. I think of the others on our customer success side. They all are great customer advocates and great communicators, and they care deeply about each and every one of their customers. And I think that speaks to the DNA that we've built here at Ressio from top to bottom. And me personally, you have my cell phone number. I think a lot of the builders that we work with have my cell phone number. So I'm always up to answer a phone call or a text message. I don't know if my wife loves that, but it's something that I care deeply about. And I'd love to build that customer relationship with everyone I can.
Hey, you have to tell them, hey, if you have something, put it in the software. Don't text me, right?
Exactly.
Just like we tell our clients, you have to tell your clients the same thing, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So, what other new features? I know that you kind of have a calendar for rolling out new modules and features, but what other stuff do you guys have coming up in the near future that you like to just mention?
Yeah, so I think we're really excited as we look ahead to 2025 about the things that are on our plate. First and foremost, always is, hey, the iterative customer feedback that is coming in. We are lucky enough to have very active and loud customers in a healthy way. And so we're constantly hearing, hey, I'd love to see this. I'd love to add this new feature. And that's often our priority. I think as we look ahead to new stuff, there's a couple of different dimensions. One is generative AI. We talked a little about like our vertical AI approach, but we have some very targeted content. I don't want to reveal too many specifics, but some to-do list automation might be one thing that you see in the future. And there will be a couple others that we'll probably reveal at the Builder Show in 2025.
Oh, cool.
Number two, analytics and reporting. We've now started to see a lot of data flow through our system. And so how can we get you the dashboards, the reports that you're looking for, the flexible cuts of data that you can slice and dice so that you can identify where are the gaps in my business, where are the opportunities for me to improve, and then go execute upon changes and track the results. So we've talked to many folks, small, medium, large, depending on their organization, and they all share a need for more and more data. How can I get more numbers into my organization? And then finally, as I think about the application itself and some of our core workflows, we'll continue to see expansion and depth within a lot of the core features and functionality. And that's mostly based off of iterative feedback that's coming in from our customers.
I have to think that with this being a new software, new product, modern coding and programming languages, right? That it's a little bit easier to make changes. Something that I had heard from other software companies is, hey, this base core software was written 10 or 15 years ago, and the changes that you want to make, we can't just make that change, right? Because that language, that software that this was created in is kind of old tech and it's not as flexible. So I think that's probably one of the things that you have going for you now, right? Is that this is new tech that you're working with, and so the flexibility and the agility, the ability to make changes on the fly is probably better than some of those old companies, right?
100%. And it's two-dimensional, right? It's not just, hey, we picked a legacy or we picked a new tech stack that is more modern than legacy tech stacks. What we've also done, and Ryan, my co-founder and our CTO, has done an excellent job of this, is we've actually constantly revamped our tech stack continuously over the last couple of years. And so what that means is you're getting the latest and greatest in November 2024. You're not getting something that was built on, hey, early 2022, right? Which is when we started. And I think about ultimately the value and the impact of this is we avoid becoming one of our competitors and a second version of them where they were built. I'm sure they said some similar things when they were getting started. Hey, we can move quickly. And they ended up in a very static position. In our perspective, we want to be as fast as we are today, 5 years from now, in terms of how we can bolt on and continue to expand the product.
Yeah, I think a great example is a couple months ago. The the way some of the files and photos uploaded was a little bit slow, had a little bit of a hiccup, and you're like, you know what, Curtis, don't worry about it. We have this new updated version that's being installed this week. This is all going to change. And sure enough, once you guys updated that to the newer version, it ran so much more seamlessly. So I think that's a great example of you listening to feedback. And because your system is built the way it's built, it's easy to upgrade that module, and it brings instant kind of relief from little issues like that might be occurring.
100%. And I'll give you a third benefit too, is it positions us to capture the advantages of new technology. So we've actually had some of those AI features I mentioned become easier and easier to build for us because we are well positioned for it. Whereas oftentimes, if you look at features on your roadmap, the more time that goes on, the harder and harder they become to build because you have technology, you have code that can't change. And for us, we're actually seeing the exact opposite. Things are going down in terms of the amount of effort it takes to build.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I've really enjoyed kind of being a part of this process, and it's really cool to me to kind of see something that's gone from kind of the discussion stage to being implemented and growing. As somebody in the construction space, it's I like seeing things. Yeah, I like seeing ideas kind of get birthed and then evolved and then come to completion. That's what I do, right? And so it's cool seeing that from another industry, from an angle that I wouldn't normally see things. So I appreciate you, involving me and a lot of other people in that process, and it's been a lot of fun kind of watching it come together.
And we appreciate your voice. It's made a tremendous amount of impact.
So to kind of wrap things up, so I'll ask you kind of two sets of questions, and this is kind of rehashing what we kind of already touched on. But as a wrap up, what are the biggest benefits to a contractor for implementing a project management solution?
Yeah, so think of it like of those under those buckets I shared, right? You want to grow your business, you want to make more money, you want to have less stress. So I want to have increased team collaboration and organization. I want to be able to manage my job schedules, track my financials. That's going to help me make more money. I want to deliver a better client experience. I want to elevate my brand. I want to professionalize it into a transparent software that I share with my homeowner. That's going to help me grow my business. And ultimately, when I centralize these things in a single place, that's going to help me reduce stress and give me time back in my week for things that I'd like to do.
All right. And so same question, but from a homeowner's perspective, what are the biggest benefits to a client, to a homeowner for their contractor using a solution?
Yeah, I mean, now that I've been through this right with Ressio, there's no way I would ever go into a large construction job without a project management software. First and foremost, above everything else, right? You're going to get transparency and visibility into your job. You're going to see job site updates in real time. You'll be able to quickly sign off on approvals such as selections and change orders. And as I've seen that many homeowners build nowadays, as the age of homeowners get younger and younger that are building these custom homes, doing remodels, etc., you don't need to build your own spreadsheet. You don't need to track everything on your own to-do list. You have trust and confidence that your builder is going to do an excellent job because they are going to be sharing some of these things with you. So to me, that's powerful. The builder's going to sleep well at night. You're going to sleep well at night. And overall, you're going to have a great experience.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I've actually seen customers build their own spreadsheet and kind of like track along. Like even with having project management software, I've seen like them like track their own spreadsheet, like check it in software and like make sure that things are adding up and things are progressing according to the schedule. So it's just funny that people still feel the need to do that, even if the software is already in place.
Yeah, but that ultimate decisions everyone up where the contractor's source of truth, they're relying on the budgets, the estimate they built within the project management software holds true throughout the project.
Yep. All right. So last question. If you could summarize kind of the Ressio's difference, right? Uh, in one or two sentences, what is that? What is the Ressio difference that sets you guys apart from the other options out there?
Yeah, obviously I'd love to use a lot of words, but I'd say we are the most user-friendly project management software with a robust end-to-end project workflow and a culture built on innovation and trust.
Awesome. That's a great summary. I think every contractor out there listening should be able to kind of you know, say what their company's difference is in just one or two sentences as well. It's kind of your elevator pitch, right?
100%.
Well, Mitchell, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We actually did like a short version of this a year or so ago at IBS, maybe 2 years ago at IBS, kind of before you guys launched. We were sitting on a couch at IBS. So I look forward to seeing you there again this coming February in Vegas and seeing what new features you guys have. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds for you guys.
Yeah, we're excited to be there. It's going to be fun. We'll have some surprises in store for those that show up to our booth. And yeah, we're excited for the future as well.
Awesome. I'll be there. I'll see you there.
Sounds great. Thanks, Curtis.
All right. Thanks, Mitchell. And thank you to listening to this new episode of the Your Project Shepherd podcast. We will be sure and link the Ressio information in our show notes on Spotify and YouTube and all those places. So if you're a contractor listening and you want to learn more about Ressio, you can go there, click those links, and connect with Mitchell and his team. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.